I'm Erik Linask. I'm here at Cloud Expo in New York, and I'm talking with Rohit Bhardwaj from Kronos. Rohit, thank you very much for joining me.
Yeah, thanks.
So you're in a short while actually giving a talk on enterprise cloud security, which I think when you talk about the cloud, certainly when you talk about enterprises and enterprise use of the cloud, is probably the single biggest discussion point. Why? What is it about security in the cloud that's different about what enterprises are used to?
Yeah, so I'll just give a little detour here. Last year, when I was talking about one of my talks last year in the SysCon was key challenges of cloud computing. So one of them was a lot of questions came up with security. And I did point it out. Availability of the service is a problem. Vendor locking is a bigger problem, and hypervisor, even if it's really good, but it has its own vulnerability, and and EC2 did lose some of its capacity because of that. Even if they don't recognize it, like Amazon Web Services, they come down because of denial of service attacks. And basically, the main problem is that availability of the service is important, authentication of the service is important, and how the whole infrastructure is compliant or not to Sarbanes-Oxley compliant. Like after 2002, of course, because of Enrons and other things, we have strict rules of where the data should be there. So that's what my main focus is, to use the industry standards to do the single sign-on and to basically do the handshake from federation of different applications. Of course, you're going to build the mashups of different cloud vendors supporting enterprise application. When the mashups comes in, one application needs to seamlessly talk to another application to perform the operation. So they should try to go with OpenAuth is another tool which is available. SAML is industry standard. OpenID, Google is more coming towards there. So using the standards always help. And if some service provider is saying, cloud service provider is saying that if you don't support a standard, then of course you should be careful not to follow that cloud provider. So that's what I have to say on this. So identity is the main concern here.
So are you simply saying that by leveraging industry standards, we can help resolve some of those security issues?
Yeah, so at least to the point that when we deploy our solutions, then we'll be able to save the time and effort if you have to have your own whole infrastructure built on one type of service, but now doing the handshake with a different side of service, it's going to take much more time and effort and money to do that. With using the standards, the advantage is that you're going to save, first of all, time, and secondly, the most important thing is that if there is a failure, there is no single point of failure. Then if you're using a standard, then you can move from EC2 to GoGrid or Meso or some other vendors which are available right now. So that's the bigger advantage you get. Like, you don't lock into one data store to provide the solution to the networks. That's the bigger advantage which is there in this.
But even if you're using industry standards, and if everybody is conforming to those standards, there are still customization and unique elements to each different implementation. So how big of a factor is that?
Yeah, so I mean, customization is part of identity management. You want to manage the roles of the organization, who is logged on, who has access to that directory, who has access to that particular application, that function. So all those criteria has to be taken into account. But what I mean to say that if the cloud provider is providing those standards, it becomes much easier for you to implement the solution. That does not mean that the implementation will go really smooth, because there are still things which need to be improved on. Like, for example, I was talking to Jeremy yesterday that the cloud testing tools is one of the areas which are not there yet. Like, they're not good cloud testing tool. Of course, we have cloud test, and we have some other push to test another one, but I haven't seen much push in that direction. So that's one thing which will help us identify the problems early. And also, of course, there are bugs in the software. So security also has some bugs. Like, we in 2008, like, there was vulnerability of software where I would not give the name of the company, but UK company in 2008, like, they lost 50% of their data just because of the vulnerability in the hypervisor. So there are security risks still in any existing software. So to mitigate those risks, we need to have good testing tools, and provide the monitoring support which is really needed for the cloud to go to the next level, where we want to go. Yes.
But in order to accomplish some of those things that you're talking about, you've got to really have cost-effective means of developing and trying out those applications.
Yeah, so absolutely. So that's another thing. Like, automation has to be part of your from day one way of doing things. Like, we used to have silo automation. Like, you're just testing using Silk, but that does not work well on enterprise level if you're going towards the cloud. So you would need different tools. Like, cloud test is one of them, which is available, including push to test, where you can see that, how and find out if this SLA, service level agreement, is being maintained or not. So that's where we need to make sure that we have a great support for the monitoring side of it also.
Excellent. Been talking here at Cloud Expo New York with Rohit Bhardwaj from Kronos. Rohit,
All right.
thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you.